Hey Slay Nation, it's Heather back with another episode of the So She Slays podcast. I'm super excited to get into today's conversation just because I don't think we've ever talked about this on So She Slays before in 150 some odd episodes. I don't think we've ever talked about this. I might have alluded to it, but I've never had somebody who can actually kind of, I guess, banter back and forth with me about it. But today I have Noor Jehan in the freaking studio, and she's going to talk to me about it. She is the semifinalist of the 2022 Sports Illustrated Swim Search competition. But she's so much more than that. I mean, she does a lot of marketing as well. She works in healthcare and all that kind of thing. But I came across your profile and I was just like, I listened to some of the podcasts that you were on before, and I was like, yeah, her and I need to have this conversation because I feel like it would be quite amazing. But before we dive into the conversation, go ahead, give us a little intro about yourself.
I will. Thanks, Heather. I'm so excited to be here. Truly, like this is so badass. So I'm a first generation gal born to Indian immigrant parents in Southern California, born and raised in SoCal. I guess what am I, like an elder millennial? But just, I was living, I was living the SoCal dream, right? Like we're by the beach and it's like, what are those shows like Saved by the Bell, 90210, Baywatch, like all of that was what our childhood was. Okay, my friends will be like, no, you grew up in the desert. But after growing up in the desert, moving to, I moved to West LA, and that, so there was that aspect of just trying to be this all-American girl in Southern California. But then it was my Indian culture, and my parents constantly embracing being immigrants and figuring out America and figuring out how to raise children in America when they're so far away from anything they've ever known, and how they try to maintain their culture and instill it in us, but also make sure that we took advantage of all of the things that could be available to us that weren't available to them in India.
Yeah.
So that was a dichotomy. And then as I got older, third influence became a bigger conversation between my parents and I, and that was religion. Because my parents, though Indian, I think most people think that Indians are Hindus, which is true. Like the majority of Indians are Hindus, but Muslims make up a bigger population of the country of India than they do in some Muslim countries. And it's wild. People, I think sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around that, but for me, it never was. And our religion kind of was our culture growing up. But as I got older as a woman, there were some expectations put on me by that religious community of how I should be acting or what I should be wearing or what I should not be doing, meaning no dating, no sex before marriage, like definitely no clubbing,
strict.
like don't wear those shorts.
Very strict. So in today's interview, we talked a little bit offline about it, but it's almost just, I mean, like so fitting to your hat that you're wearing, the country club misfit, because we literally just had a conversation about being misfits and not fitting in and juggling and living life between, I always say I live life between two drastically different worlds in so many different aspects of my existence. And then you yourself, I mean, you just listed off 3 different things that you kind of identify as. And so today we are going to kind of dive into that a little bit more of, you're never 100% anything, and how even our own cultures kind of, I guess force us to make our own cool kid club because we never quite fit in.
Exactly.
We never quite fit in. And so I'm hoping that what Slay Nation is getting from this is that, one, like you are never just one thing, and screw the people who want to put you in a box because they can totally kick rocks. But I want to start with your kind of, I guess, your struggle in trying to find where you fit. And have you ever even found where you fit, or did you just be like, screw it, I'm gonna be everywhere?
I don't think I've still found where I fit, but now I say that with a lot of
Mm,
pride. I'm so happy that I don't have a place where I fit in, because it allows me to think the last thing you said of like, screw it. I'm just going to insert myself wherever the
go
fuck
for
I
it.
want
We
to,
we
because
swear on this
that then
podcast, so
is,
go for
yeah.
it.
But that's what I want to do, because that actually serves me, because if there's something I want to try to do, I don't have to worry about, does it align to this culture? Does it align to these expectations? I can just say, screw it. I will insert myself where I need to. Um, but even though I say that I haven't found a place to fit in, I also think that what I have, which I did not have in this search for identity, was a lot more just of contentment. I'm
Mm,
content with an identity that I created, instead of um, picking an
yeah.
identity that I was constantly being told you need to pick one. And I'm very content that I didn't pick one and that I
Oh my
created
gosh,
my own.
same. And I mean, because I'm half Chinese, half white, but my dad, like I'm the first generation of my dad's family to be born in America. He's from Hong Kong, and then my mom, she was a Navy brat, kind of traveled all over the world, but spent a chunk of time in the South before coming to California. And I was born and raised in a really small farm town in Northern California, and there was like population of Chinese is like zero. So it wasn't zero. It's just not very much. I was definitely the token Asian kid. Um, and I present mostly Asian here in America. But if you talk to anybody over in China, and they're like, "Oh no, you're half." And I was like, "Yeah, well, American people don't see me that way." So, but there's always been this need to choose, right? Like everybody always wants to make you choose. Like you're not Chinese enough or you're not white enough. You're gonna always be othered. I've been othered my entire life, so I'm quite used to it. And I've always just been like, oh, you're like this Asian country kind of person. I've never met someone like you
Yeah.
before. And they always want to make you choose. And I've just always grown up with the fact I was like, no, one, don't tell me what to do. Two, like I'm not gonna choose because I'm both. So my thing for you is like, have you come across anything like that?
Yeah, I think when I was being when I felt like I was being forced to choose, I then said, "Oh, you want me to choose you? Okay, I'm going to do the exact opposite, and I am just going to like absolutely reject you." So that's what I did. I didn't find pride in these three, let's call them the three prongs of what is my identity influences, where it's like the American culture, the Indian culture, and this religious influence. I didn't take pride in all three. I absolutely rejected one of the three at any one time. And I did that because people were saying you need to choose to be this
Mm.
way. And so I think that because of that, and there was a lot of like the nine
Oh,
11 stuff, like I had
yeah.
just started college. Like I had just started college when like I like literally started school, and I was so excited to get away and like be my own person without all of these influences over me in college. And like I was could not wait, right? To just like make mistakes, do stupid things, figure out who I was going to be. And then I had this last name that was very Middle Eastern, um, going into my first day of my freshman year at UCLA, which was literally like a week after 9/11.
What was that
So that
experience? Was
name,
that
and
that had wild?
wild. Wild because other than my parents, no one had put me in the box of Muslim until that day. Like my parents started having these expectations like, oh, in our culture, in our religion, when a girl hits puberty, X, Y, and Z is supposed to happen. So, maybe you need to consider that. Or in this religion, the women don't do X, Y, and Z after they've
Mhm.
hit puberty. So for example, like I play tennis, right? And so a lot of our older relatives, once I hit puberty, were like, oh, she shouldn't be running around in a short tennis skirt. That's actually, they would say that's against the religion. The religion promotes
Mm.
modesty. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm playing tennis and I'm
Yeah.
good. Like you want me to give up tennis or you want me to wear sweats in the 112
No,
degree
thank
desert?
you.
Like this is silly. I don't understand it. So that's what like the religious influence was on me that I was still rejecting. But then when I got out into LA, and it's like the week after 9/11, it is such a heavy time, and I'm sitting in my class, and all people can do is focus on my last name, which I had never even thought
Oh,
about up until that
jeez.
day. So suddenly I'm Muslim. And I was like, no, no, no. Like the only reason my parents and I talk about religion is because they said I can't wear shorts when I play tennis, or that I can't date this boy because it's against this religion that they want me to follow now. But now felt like I was carrying the weight of everything, the entire narrative around the Middle East and Muslims
Oh my
during that
God.
time. So what I did is I just ran away from it. I was very clear to people. I am Indian. My parents are Indian. I'm also born in America. I'm a California girl. And I really denied that part of my life for a long time because of
Yeah.
that. Like I was like 16 when I went to school. Like I was so young that I was just like, no, 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 no. I don't want anyone to put
Yeah.
me in that
Yeah.
box.
Okay. So, two questions with that. Like, do you ever regret how, like, you kind of handled that situation? I mean, I don't even know if there is a correct way to quote unquote handle that situation, but how do you feel about the reaction to that?
I love that you asked that because truly, yes, my
Mm,
answer is yes. And the reason I regret it, I'll never forget. Like she's one of my closest, oldest, dearest family
mhm,
friends. We grew up together. And we took two different paths, right? Like we were the same age growing up, and I ended up going to college a year ahead of her. And when I went to college, I was like, I'm like, bring on the crop tops, like bring on
I
like
mean, I get
every,
it. Who
like I
doesn't,
was like,
right?
ev- yeah, like, but I almost felt like I was like, I am doing it to rebel because I was told I can't do all these things. And she came to college and she had made a decision to start covering her
Mm,
hair. Like we never talked about religion, but we both were Indian, but our parents were Muslims. We never talked about religion that much. And then when she joined college, I was taken aback. I'm like, whoa, you started covering your hair? She said, yeah. And I'm like, wow. And I could not get over her confidence and her love of self and just
mm,
her sense of self that she had. And nothing about our friendship changed. Like she didn't judge me. She could have. A lot of her friends judged the shit out of me, but she didn't because we had a real
yeah.
friendship. And then I needed a place to live. And she was like, yeah, you can live with me. And so you can imagine these two friends, like I'm going out, clubbing, partying, going out late. And she is just like embracing her best self. And what I regret is there was a time when she invited me. She's like, oh, like come, there's going to be this like gathering for like the Muslim girls from like Muslim Student Association. And I'd never been to one of those meetings. I was all up in like the frat parties, or I'd go to the Indian Student Union parties. And I went there, and all of these girls are wearing their head covering, Heather. And I'm having this conversation with them about, I thought I was doing something amazing by saying, like, oh, you should be able to feel empowered to do what you want and to wear what you want and be, and they all looked at me with these blank faces. And then one of them said to me, I feel really fucking empowered. Like I feel more empowered wearing this than I have ever in my life. And I just I still remember that.
Yeah.
I regret that I didn't know, like, and now I see it so differently, and I'm so in awe of anyone who chooses like their path. Um so I regret that I didn't take the time to
Mm.
learn more about what people feel about, what why people might gravitate towards something that I didn't gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
and thank you for being so honest about that, because I think part of I'm gonna be a little bit generalized here. I think part of a lot of people, when it comes to understanding like others' choices, other lives, other experiences and levels of exposure, is the lack of knowledge. One, because I mean, look, you didn't know, you know now, right? You know now, it made you look at things
Yeah.
totally differently now, since you've had that experience. But I think it's just this fear of making a mistake or saying something wrong, like, and I'm coming out of this with a little bit of, you had the experience of 9/11, right? Well, I had the experience of COVID. And living, like, I mean, I spent COVID in the country because I was supposed to move down to LA in March of 2020.
Yeah.
Clearly that didn't happen, but I had let go of everything in San Francisco. Like, I had already packed up my house. Like, I was moving. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna go see my family for a week or two and then peace out, homie. Is like, I'm going to LA.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. And I actually, like, I spent a year and a half in the country until things started coming back down in LA before I could get back down here. And it had been 11, 12 years since I've actually lived there, right? And,
Yeah.
and then it was like during COVID, and there was a lot of more like scrutiny around me. I had friends call me, like, as soon as like those Asian hate crimes started skyrocketing, like, I had friends call me because they knew where I was, and they were like, "Hey, I know that there's not a lot of Asian people around. Like, are you okay? Are you being careful?" And like,
Wow.
I love all of my friends for doing that, but that also like made me break down. Like, everybody was going through everything in those years in COVID, and I think even still now we're still dealing with some stuff. But I had such emotional breakdowns during that time because I was like, I don't know, like, I'm going to Walmart now, and all you see is my eyes because we're all wearing masks, and I'm scared. Like, I'm scared for the first time,
Yeah.
and I've never experienced something like that before. And scared in a different way. Like, we've all been scared, walking to our car late at night or like things like that. But
Yeah.
scared for a different reason. And so I called Chauncey, the co-founder of So She Slays, who my best friend. She's pretty much my wife at this point. Um we joke all the time about that because it's like we literally, like, we have So She Slays and Slay AF, our agency, who's they're like two kids, and anyways, I digress. But I called her and I was telling her what was happening, and like, she was kind of talking me through it and all this kind of stuff because I had told her, I was just like, look, I didn't understand racism in that factor until this very moment. And I know, her being a Black woman and all that kind of stuff, like, that is very apparent to her. She deals with that, has been dealing with that. Like, that's part of living, like, her life in a certain way.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, I've always kind of known, growing up in a small farm town, that like, you don't have a whole lot of people around you that look like you or whatnot. But it was totally different and put into a different light when COVID started happening. So that's why I had to ask you, like, how was that experience for you? Because I remember just being scared
Yeah.
after all of those hate crimes started happening.
It's yeah, I was scared. I was scared for my parents. And I think it actually gave me more empathy for, because I was
Mm,
frustrated with them, right? I'm like, you guys are giving me mixed messages about, you want me to like go out and be an American kid, but then you're also giving me mixed messages. But there were definitely hate crimes against them and their business. And I also came from a really small
yeah.
town. So I had moved to LA and I was dealing with maybe like the social aspect of it on a college campus, of not necessarily outward racism or hatred, but like a lot of scrutiny, right? But my parents were actually dealing with actual, vandalism and crimes against them and their business. And I think I had a lot more empathy for them, and saw them as humans, but I was still just more self-absorbed about like, how do I course like over correct
Oh,
for this, and be really really lean into like, I'm just this all American girl, and like course corrected, just and really hang out with all the Indian kids who are Hindu. And so I just as you're saying this, I think what's important too is like, I like my name,
yeah.
for example, right? Like my full name is Noor Jehan, right? And it's a beautiful, powerful Middle Eastern name. Even though I'm Indian, that Middle Eastern influence, through like the Mughal era in India and a lot of Muslims being there, a lot of the Muslim Indians have Middle Eastern names. My name is
Oh my gosh,
beautiful, but I
yes.
was very
Your
quick to be
name
like,
is gorgeous.
and, but thanks, girl. But I think like my entire life, I was Noor, I was
Mm,
NJ, I was Noor. And once I found that contentment that I was referring to earlier, which was only a couple years ago, I like reclaimed my full name.
mm,
I was like, no, I'm not NJ. I'm not Noor. I'm Noor
mhm.
Jehan, right? And it's a powerful fucking name. It means light of the world. And it's a lot to live up to. But I feel like it pushes me and it motivates me to remember that, like, you have all these facets. So now we are living in an era where the Middle East is back in the news. And there, it's like a lot more spotlight on Muslims and what it means to be a Muslim, and like what it means, like religion is back in the spotlight. And I am by no means an expert, but I feel like I remind myself, like, of course, because for everyone the world revolves
Yes,
around
yeah.
yourself. Like, I'm like, okay, like this this is your opportunity. I love that you asked me, do I regret something? Because I did. And I'm realizing right now and talking to you, like, yeah. And maybe that's what's pushing me to be more educated and have the guts to be more vocal about things that I necessarily wouldn't have been, because I do have a lot more. I have pride in where I came from, but I also feel like I learned and know
Yeah.
more about history or religion and whatnot to have that
Mhm.
pride. And if you don't go through things like that you regret, then you're not going to be able to maybe do better things in the future, which I hope I'm doing now because, you know, ultimately the religion, my parents are the best human beings in the world. The religion that they follow is, also under
Yeah,
scrutiny again. And whether or not I follow that, like, I love those people and I love, like, so you care more. And how do you come back from regret?
exactly.
And maybe
I
that's what.
think that whole experience too, I mean, you kinda touched on it where it's like, humanizing your parents in a way, like realizing that they're learning too and that things are changing and maybe what they have been accustomed to is not, I don't want to say correct or whatever, but it's like it's not approached with an open mind, right? And I think like you can say things, do things, and all this kind of stuff, but if somebody pushes back in their vocal, whatever, I think it's on us, right, to be open minded enough to hear it. Because I always say it's like,
Yeah.
when I go back to visit my family, we always have Sunday night dinners, right? Where the whole family gets together. My sister, it's over at my sister's house, and it's my brother-in-law and his parents, and they're his aunt and uncle, and then it's like the kids, and then if I'm there, I'll go over. So it's like it's a big family Sunday night dinner. We're not religious by any means, but we just use Sunday as an excuse to get together and
Yeah.
reconvene around the dinner table, potluck style or whatever, and just talk. And I always tell people, I'm like, when I moved to San Francisco, it was so drastically different from the country, right? And the things that are talked about around the dinner table in San Francisco are so different than the things that are talked about at the dinner table in the country. Those are two very different life experiences. And a lot of times, what I found is like I acted as a bridge sometimes because not everybody has the experience of both, right? Or the understanding
Yeah.
and life experience of living in amongst in and all of this kind of stuff where you can see like, oh, okay, I understand why, this topic is important to you, like gun. We'll take gun
Yeah.
control. We're not going to get political here, but it's like there are two, like in the country and in the city, it means two different things, and so that's why I've always kind
Yeah.
of like, you know, look, you can't. It's not a one size fits all. You can't do it that way.
Yeah. But isn't that so cool? Like, I'm hearing you talk and I'm like, I think this, and we had talked about this earlier, that, for anyone that might be 100% of something, like, more power to you, like, good for you. And I honor the journey you're on, but like, I'm not 100% of anything and you aren't either. And maybe none
Mm-hmm.
of us are, it doesn't matter whether it's like religion, culture, but because of that, it's not a zero
Yes.
sum game. And I think we're always told it's a zero sum game. Like, choose a side, choose a culture, choose a religion. Like, and if you're biracial or you're coming from, like, even Indian, I'm not even full, I'm half North, half South. And that's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal in India. Like, you're not fully one part of India. And, but And because of that, it's not a zero sum game. I can't fully hear one side without considering the other. Like, it's like I can't fully hear how my dad has like a custom because like the custom is different in the north where my mom is from. And so I think it's empowering. Like instead of us feeling confused, because I think a lot of us grow up feeling so confused being in this like suspension of multiple influences. But like you just said, you're this
Mm-hmm.
conduit, like you're a liaison between the country and the city. And that's really empowering. And I think that is, we can't
Yeah.
forget that. Like it can be really frustrating to be in what we feel is a constant suspension, but we got to channel that into something. And I think that is why, like when you said, like, have you found your identity? Maybe that's why I'm like, no. And I hope not, because,
Well,
we'll
I
keep
almost think identity is of
leading.
your own creation, right? I've always kind of I've taken the stance of like, well, I know who I am, right? Like, I know that I'm a mix of, X, Y, and Z. I have these personality traits. This is my, what's important to me. These are my values. Well, I know me, but I've always taken the stance because we live in this suspension, right? Of like, well, I've been exposed to all of these different things, right? And I mean, we haven't even covered all the things, and I'm sure you haven't even covered all the things that you've been
Yeah.
exposed to, but we've been exposed to all of these different things. And I feel like our identity then is created off of us just pulling what speaks to us from all of these different experiences, right? Like that's our identity.
Heck yeah.
It's not,
Heck yeah.
it's not fully 100% one or, two or, this religion in this town or whatever. It's just experiences that speak to us. And we're like, we're going to have more of that in my life
Yeah.
because I love that. And I'm thankful enough that because I have stuck to that, and I'm sure maybe you've had this experience yourself, because I've just stuck so solely into like what speaks to me and what feels good and what I feel like I want to do and contribute to this world. I have naturally gravitated people towards me who are friends and family at this point that also do that. And they're like, you know what, I just love you for
Yeah.
you. And vice versa. I love them for them, that kind of a thing. So, I
Yeah.
mean, have you had that type of experience? Is that how you live?
Yes, exactly. And I think like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if that like wasn't that shift that I started feeling where it became I'm like the people that are in my life are just people that see me for me and not seeing me for like what they want me to be or what they think I should be. But once I just started getting myself like I just said this a couple weeks ago, like I don't do things because I think I'm good at them. I do them because I
Mm,
enjoy them. And so that's the experience. Like, like we were talking about like sing, I am by no means the best singer, but I had given it up for a couple, like several years. And I was like, I love doing
yeah.
it. I'm not trying to like get a record deal, but I love doing it. And that then is an experience, right? And like that gets me feeling more like me. And then I attract people that see me for me. And yes, because like here's the kicker: we're talking about all of these different facets. In the end, like I married a white
Mm-hmm.
man from the country, not very far
I
from
know.
you.
We talked offline. I was
So,
like, oh my God,
so
I know where he's
yeah.
from.
Yeah, and he's a country boy, and being around my in-laws and being around, my husband growing up, I wanted that all American life. Like I wanted like the Christmas morning cozy, we like open presents and sing carols and watch football. And, I wanted that because I was competing, like my life was competing with so many different religious and cultural holidays. And I got that. I have that. I have this beautiful all American experience. And all it's done is make me want more to embrace my culture and learn more about my parents' faith and like understand
Mm-hmm.
more about like, it's like almost like, it's weird. Like marrying my all American white husband has made me even more proud to be Indian and to be, the child of parents of Muslim faith.
Yes.
Right. Like it's so wild how it works. But when you feel like you've surrounded yourself by people that see you for you or that really are excited about you continuing to find yourself, then like I didn't become like more white or more American. I've actually just leaned more into openly talking about the things that we just
Mm-hmm.
talked about.
Facts.
It's wild.
That's honestly why I wanted to talk to you about this. So, because I was like, I feel like we would have a good conversation about this. So I always like to leave the podcast with action items, things to think about, tips, something like that. Some food for thought. Uh in talking about all of our experiences. Actually, like I'm debating whether or not one question or two questions. Um
Ooh.
if you could go back, right, to your younger self, and I actually never thought about this either. So, if you could kind of go back to your younger self and be able to kind of explain or give tips or words of wisdom to your younger self and growing up in the atmosphere that you have, um, what would it be? Just because I feel like there could be listeners right now who could benefit off of that.
Okay. This is what if I could go back to my younger self, I would tell her, good for you for continuing to question and challenge and rebel and like say no and run away. Because if I hadn't continued to challenge what was being forced upon me or expected of me, I was told I was like the black sheep, or that I was like, you're shaming the community, or you are going to be a disappointment. But if I had like leaned into that and listened and then not continued to question things, I wouldn't be right here. And I think a lot of younger people are told by authoritative figures that you need to change, you need to like fix this, you need to like, you're messing up, you're disappointing people. And I would go back to my younger self and be like, continue drowning that out. And I know we're supposed to be like, oh, like I know I made a lot of mistakes. Like when I told you, I do still regret like not understanding my fellow peers more in college. But I go back to that little girl in like junior high or high school and just like wondering like was it worth like causing such hell and like fighting with my parents constantly over this? And in the end, I say yes, because like we're in a great place and I'm living the life that I always say this, that I painstakingly cultivated for
Mm,
myself. So I think we always tell younger kids that like olders know better, and like you're, if they're listen to them and fix some things, and you're told you're different, you're told you're messing up, ignore it. You got to listen to your gut
mm-hmm.
sometimes.
And I think too, for like the misfits don't really feel understood or anything like that. I mean, like I just relate so much to that. I just relate so much to that. Because I don't feel like, you're understood quite a lot. But I think that's everybody. I don't think that that's a singular feeling, right? Like it's me, myself, and I feel that
Agreed.
way.
Agreed.
I think everybody to a degree feels that way. So we can all take a little bit of reassurance in that. And I think for me, like
Yeah.
I was that type of kid too. I constantly pushed buttons. I
Yeah.
constantly like pushed boundaries. My dad and I used to go head to head all the time.
Yeah.
And there's still times where I'm like, no. And he's like, you're so stubborn. And I was like, so are you. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I think, you're accepting the good, bad, and the ugly parts of people, right? That you truly love, but you come with it with a level of understanding for their life experience and level of exposure. What, not that that's good or bad. There is no judgment on level of experience and exposure. I would just implore you to learn and talk to people.
Yeah.
If that's where you're coming
Yeah.
from. But yeah, I would say mine's in the same boat as yours. I would just keep pushing. And I would keep,
Yeah.
cultivating the life that I want and lean into the things that make me happy. And that has got me to where I'm at. So no complaints thus far.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for having this awesome conversation with me. I really, really enjoyed it. I think we hit on some pretty important topics. But also, too, where can people find you, follow you?
Thanks so much, Heather. You can find me on Instagram. It's at Noor Jehan Tort, NoorJehanTourte. It's my full married name now, but it's one I carry with pride. And I thank you so much. Like, honestly, like, this isn't stuff that I talked about,
Mm-hmm.
and for a long time. So thank you for this platform, and just thanks for vibing. I feel like this has to be talked about more, and I'm so happy that we had a chance to.
Facts, girl, facts. All right, Slay Nation, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, we'll catch you later.